So hello everybody. For the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me to set the scene. I'm going to talk about my journey to the trial and then what happened during the trial. So let's start at the beginning so that you understand a little bit about me. CLL doesn't define me. I have a whole series of roles in life. You can read them for yourself, but I'm a family person, a friend. Uh, you can chuckle at this point. I'm a Morris dancer. The traveler bit's not been so successful this year. However, the result of the traveler not being successful, the gardener's managed to build himself a polytunnel. So all in all, a life to get on with. And as I say at the bottom, I live with CLL. So when did my journey to a trial start? And the easiest way to look at that or describe it is to look at a chart. And back in June 2012, I was diagnosed with CLL, and first week of July, I met Adrian for the first time. And by the end of July, I was already taking FCR. An unusual situation for people to go straight into treatment, but I'd already had a virtual watch and wait, I think. So that went okay for a couple of years. You can see I actually, in 2013, I was, when they did the final analysis, I was in CR, complete remission, but not MRD negative. So roll on time, and by June 2016, which is where the graph turns up, just looking at my absolute lymphocyte count, I could see that my numbers were increasing. And in fact, just to complete the picture on this, when I started the trial, I started taking a brutinib here, which was February, added Venetoclax here, which was April, and then brings it up to date. And this is a lot of blood tests in here. So there. Now you understand that. Why did I join the trial? Well, when I talked to Adrian in November, December 2016, my views were I had three options. I could do nothing. That was not a good idea, in my opinion, and he confirmed it. I could do FCR or another combination or a chemo treat combination, or I could consider going on a trial. So I'd already done quite a bit of reading about this, and my favored option was a trial, although I needed to understand what the choices were. My evaluation said that the positives is I got access to drugs early, and during that I would have improved monitoring, so to help protect me. And then obviously there were some negatives as well, which is possible side effects, but that my expectation was that improved monitoring would actually cover me for the side effects. And the other thing was I'd benefited from FCR and other people doing tests in the past, doing trials in the past, and I felt I'd like to, as part of this, have some sort of give back. So the trial I joined was called Clarity. It was investigating the use of a brutinib and venetoclax in combination for refractory and relapsed CLL patients. There were 50 of us, and it's a single arm, so there were no options. You were in or out. And the title of my presentation, I am number 38, is explained with a little card down in the right-hand corner, which is what I carried with me wherever I went in the early days of the trial. I also carried a full set of blood tests and the last letter from Adrian to my GP, purely because I thought they might be useful if anything went wrong. As it happened, nothing did, so it was just some paper, 3 sheets of paper to carry. So I read the documentation. I had to understand the restrictions and side effects of 2 different drugs, ibrutinib and venetoclax. I decided to get an impartial view. It was actually my daughter, so you could argue she might not be impartial, but she had recently done a bioveterinary science degree, and I thought she would have a better understanding than me. And I discussed it with Adrian's team. Once I actually got through that, I also needed to understand the plan, because I wanted to minimize the excitement that might happen and any surprises. And I also needed to understand the commitments I was making. So this was a page I stole out of the trial documentation. All the nice printed stuff is from the documentation. All the scribbling all over it was me working out when things were going to happen and what was going to happen when. So you can see separate lines for blood tests, ECG, CT scan, and bone marrow biopsies as well. So I knew when all of those were coming. So I had it in my mind quite clearly what was going to happen. And once you get to this end, it was back to, towards the end of the trial, it was back to 3 monthly tests, checkups as before. So the journey. Once I signed up to the trial, quite a lot of tests to be done day 0 and in the few weeks before. And this is specific to the individual trial, you have to understand. Then the first stage was a fairly standard treatment by now, which was brutinib monotherapy, and I had tests back in the hospital in weeks 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8, and that was very important because in some of those tests, weeks 7 and 8, they identified that I was potentially a high risk of tumor lysis syndrome, TLS, so they could monitor that more closely. And so that was a positive. I was really pleased that they'd identified that, and that was as a result of, as I said, of ongoing monitoring. Second stage, they added venetoclax, and you can see that there were 5 weeks where they gradually increased the dose. On weeks 1, 20, and weeks 2, the 40 milligram doses. I spent an overnight in the Christie in the research department, which was for them to monitor me. So that was a little bit of a downer to start with, thinking I had to spend a night in this, especially when they told me they were going to carry out tests every couple of hours. But then only took me a few minutes to realize this was really important, and I started to feel really happy that they were keeping an eye on me really closely. So I was very pleased. Therapy continued after that. First, I was going to the Christie monthly, and then on to 3 monthly. So in reality, I probably made I made 5 visits in April, 7 in May, and then it was into a more steady routine of 1 visit a month, and then 1 visit every 3 months. By June 2018, they had decided to stop my treatment. So I was very pleased with that, because that was supposedly still a year to go before I was going to stop. And the reason they stopped it was I had hit all of the targets that were defined for the trial. Really pleased because I felt I finished early for a really positive reason. I called a third stage as well, which was once the drugs had stopped, I was getting regular checkups. It was back to a regular 3 monthly checkup, so no different to normal, really. The impact, I would say, on my life in terms of my commitments was that basically in the first couple of months, I was going quite a few times to the Christie. It's about a 2.5 to 3 hour round trip for me. And I spent a couple of overnights there, but very successful. Looking back, so I have the satisfaction of knowing this was the right choice for me. And I can prove that because in June 2020, I am still MRD negative in my peripheral blood. So I was really pleased. And also I helped to contribute. So in this massive colored lines and the bottom charts, one of those is me. I have no idea which one, but it makes me very happy, I think, to realize that I've done a little bit towards the future. So the future, in summary, I've talked a bit about me. I hope all of my current commitments continue in terms of family, etc., etc. You've heard about my journey. A brief thought about the trial. Would I do it again? Yes, absolutely. And that's just me thinking, I wonder what's around the next corner. So really looking forward to the future. And I'd like to thank everybody involved in my trial, the medics, the farmers, the researchers, and you as the audience for watching, at which point I'll hand back to Adrian.